It's 1 week till media days. 1 week till media days. So we're going to talk about magazine season and go over what they see Ole Miss doing this year and how it looks and why potentially it's happening. Also, in the third segment of this show, we will have Bryson Sanders. But this is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I hope everybody had a great weekend. I know I sure did. I went and saw Thor over the weekend. Decent movie. It was okay. It was a fun experience. I enjoyed it quite a bit, especially the Guns N' Roses. This all the way through it. It's pretty great. Anyway, before I get started, I'd like to thank the LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked On College Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. So, also, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So do us a favor and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also hit the bell for notifications when we put a new video up, which actually happens quite frequently. And, of course, upvote the video itself. Thank you very much for that. And down below, you can see my Twitter address. We talk about Ole Miss football. We talk about soccer. We talk about a lot of stuff. But it won't just be Ole Miss football, so know that ahead of time. Anyway, with Media Days a week away, I've been wanting to, I've got all the magazines. They finally came in over the weekend. Phil Steele, Athlon's, Lindy's, the whole 9 yards. I've got all of those. And the one thing that takes me, Phil Steele was on the Locked On SEC show a couple of days ago and talked about how it's basically a day after Thanksgiving to June job for him. And that is fine. But I do want to point out that the day after Thanksgiving, nobody had any idea what this Ole Miss team would look like. So if you did any kind of background work on Ole Miss the day after Thanksgiving, you just wasted a complete amount of time. And I know that Phil Steele does very good things, and he actually has the highest look for Ole Miss of all the three magazines as far as their predicted third in the West. They're tied with Arkansas. But the day after Thanksgiving, everybody's going crazy. Signing day, early signing day, Ole Miss was melting down over who they're going to sign. And they looked completely different by February 2nd. A complete transformation of the team. And that led to spring, which added new storylines. So it made Ole Miss hard to pin down from these skywriters. These people that are looking down trying to make general statements of everything that's going on. The information is great. The names are great. The predictions are great. I have a problem with the team rankings in the Phil Steele edition. In the linebacker position, they have 5 teams ranked 3rd and 3 teams ranked 9th and 2 ranked 13th. It is absolutely bizarre. If you're going to rank. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. I don't think it's a tie. So either way, you're wrong on it. But at least if it's ranked, it just flows one ear and out the other. But you take Ole Miss, and so much has changed. And I tell people all the time that if you hear somebody say, this is the way it's always been done, immediately run away. Because college football has changed so much in 3 years. To the point of NIL and the transfer portal and now all this conference realignment stuff. All of this stuff that you assumed was going to be the way it needed to go in November, and you started them because you had to. I understand that. But Ole Miss wasn't settled until April, until May, which is about a month before print. And I know you want this to be good to go, reliable, most up-to-date information. I mean, Phil Steele is like 350 plus pages, and they brag on that. That's on the cover. It's kind of like SEC Media Days and media credentials. They want to brag on the numbers, and they want it to balloon up and be more and more and more. So the information there may not be useful, but it serves a purpose of building everything up. And if you look at the pages, the way they're set up, it's not designed to be easy to read. Even if you want to look at the conference stuff, it's not designed for that. So, as the Skywriters with everything's going on, I am more and more convinced that they simply want things that they can count on as constants. That's the reason they invent blue bloods. Blue bloods don't really exist, people. Blue bloods are invented by media personnel in order to prop them up. If you want to look at an example, a blue blood for 60 years was Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame now is a good team, but in the 90s and 2000s, they weren't. But each year they would end up in a top 10 ranking. Why? Because the person that is doing that ranking did not have the mental space, the memory, if you will, to know everything about every team. So there are certain constants that they put on the list. In the 90s, it would have been Notre Dame. It would have been Florida. It would have been Tennessee. I mean, those things would have been constants, and they would always get ranked high because why? It takes up less memory to say, okay, this is just going to be good. They're going to be good. And they're going to be good. And they're going to be good. So we can go there. So that's 3 out of the 10. Now, where do we want to put this team? I think Oklahoma could be good. So we'll put them in there. And because of that lack of memory, because we need to remember with these media personnel, they want to completely sound infallible when it comes to their sports reporting, to what's going on. The reality of it is there is not enough memory space in the mind of a 40-year-old man with a family to learn 130 teams, remember his bills and things that are going on at home. All of that's going to take up, and just less and less time is going to be devoted to reporting, less and less memory is going to be devoted to reporting and all this. So you need constants. You need constants. You need to count. Right now, they look at it and it's like, okay, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, with the playoff, you pretty much do that. I think LSU will probably be up there, probably Oklahoma as well. And the reality of it is, we're in about year 3 of college football completely changing, which means the end result is going to change a little bit as well. It's going to look a little bit differently. And you're going to see a cycle in which we've been seeing this over the last couple of years, if you've been paying attention, them being right less and less of the time. Because it's starting to change. Now, it is not their fault. Now, sports writers, especially nice national ones, are from a bygone era, right? It's from the 1920s with baseball going on, and there was no way to see it. And you might be able to catch a game on the radio. But if you wanted to find out how the Brooklyn Dodgers or the New York Giants was doing, it was a sports writer up in the booth describing the events, getting to know the players, he relaying them to the fans that was building up in that time frame. And that served a purpose, honestly, into the mid-2000s. But then shortly after that, when every game stopped being on TV, you kind of quit needing reporters for college football. Because you could see. You could watch what happened. You could see the highlights to it. The school puts it up every game. It's all there for you to disseminate. And I tell people to trust their eyes over something somebody else says. Always. Because you know best what you want to see, what you want to know better than they do. And if you are well versed in football at all, you don't need an outside opinion. See, that gets me in trouble a lot with people. And it comes off as cocky and braggadocious and all of this thing. But it's simply that I'm not willing to defer my opinion. They have to prove to me that their opinion is worth listening to. Because I'm at a level to where I think that, you have to be fairly special to knock it off. So, and that upsets people because people always want you to defer your opinion, what's going on. If you say that this uniform is the best and the other one says that uniform is the best, and you say, no, this uniform is the best, they're going to get mad because you're not agreeing with them. That's just the way this works. That's honestly the whole system of college football, honestly. You look at what's going on, and it can be different flavors. It's like these magazines. You got one where it's tied to third. You got one where Ole Miss is predicted fourth, and you got one where Ole Miss is predicted fifth. And if you look at the All-SEC prediction, they're all over the place, other than Zach Evans and Nick Broker. And we're going to tell you about that in the second segment today. But first, I do want to let you know about LinkedIn. As the sun comes out and the small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. So create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond, the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. That's like a tenth of the world's population, by the way. Then add your job and the hiring hashtag hiring purple frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help find the right people. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It is why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires and versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free on linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Please do not forget to rate and review us on iTunes. Leave us a 5-star review. You can say whatever you want to say. Just leave a 5-star review. So we're going into magazines and why they're so different and everything's going on. I know this is probably pretty heavy stuff coming straight off of a weekend for the first listen in the morning, but just bear with me. Now, if you look at the Phil Steele thing, I'm just going to read directly from it here. You have a first team, Jeremy James, which is legit. He's probably the most talented offensive lineman on the team. Second team, Jonathan Mingo. Third team, Nick Broker. Fourth team, Zach Evans and Mason Brooks. That's 3 offensive linemen and a running back showing on offensive line. That should be a hint for everybody. But it's also them probably taking educated guess where this team will go. Now, if you look at the defensive side of the ball, 2 players. Cedric Johnson, 4th team. AJ Finley, 3rd team. No specialists on the list. So that's probably why they ranked Ole Miss down as far as they did. So I'm going to set that down right there, and we're going to talk about the Athlons. They have Ole Miss predicted 5th and finishing 8-4 and going 4-4 in the league. Biggest game, the Ole Miss State game pops up as it will. And you have Nick Broker, first team. No defenders, first team. Second team, you have Jeremy James. No defenders, second team. Third team, Jonathan Mingo and Zach Evans. AJ Finley, third team defense. No specials. Once again, the defense is criminally overlooked by people. And why? It's because they don't have enough memory. They're skyriders. That's what I just explained. They don't know what's going on the defensive side of the ball, and they're not aware what happened in the transfer portal because that is not the way they've done this. These magazines have existed pretty much my whole life, and they've done them a certain way. When everything changes, as everything did, it's going to require a couple of years for them to catch up and do right. But they've got Ole Miss 5th in the SEC West. Now, if you look at the Lindy Sports, which actually was the first one to the market, I got this probably 3 weeks ago. They've got Ole Miss predicted 4th, and they even mentioned that Ole Miss used the portal, but they just don't respect it, I do not believe. First team, Nick Broker, no defenders. Second team, Zach Evans, no defenders. Third team, Michael Trigg, that's actually a good pick, and no defenders. You can see what's going on. They're just completely overlooking the defensive side of the ball because they don't understand. Because to them, and this has happened for years and years and years, when they hear the word transfer, it's still, they're automatically hardwired to think that there's something wrong with this kid. Oh, this kid couldn't cut it here. And that's not the case anymore. That's not the way this works anymore. If you are a starting running back or a running back on a pro-style I-formation team, if you were at Auburn last year, if you're Tank Bigsby, right? And he's perfectly suited for that I-formation fullback, let's run the football that Mike Bobo ran. Tank Bigsby would probably struggle in an air raid system. If he went to Mississippi State, he would probably be third on the depth chart behind Dylan Johnson and the other kid. Why? It's because of system fit. System fit is everything. Unless you are a top of the line 5-star, the system matters more and more as it goes down. Once you get down to 3 stars, there's NFL players that are 3 stars. You just need to be playing in the right system, doing the right things. You need to make sure. With Ole Miss having a quirky defensive system, and at this point it still is quirky, although I think in 10 years it'll be the standard, by the way. But right now it's quirky. And because of that, people have trouble understanding it and understanding what they're doing and what their goals are and why it's set up. Why is the running back designed to be spilled to a different location than a normal 4-3 or a 4-2-5 or even a 3-4? Why does it look a little bit different when the 5 techniques pinch down and all of a sudden a middle linebacker is a part of the 4-man fit on a run play? Just sitting there is just basic, and then everybody else can spill and do whatever they need to do. It looks quirky, which means if you find the right person that's a 3-star, he might not fit in as a 3-4 or 4-3 player or 4-2-5. But in this system, it might work for him. And Kari Coleman and Isham Young, I think Isham Young is going to be a big-time player because he comes from John Haycock's original system at Iowa State. It's a pretty big deal. Now, we started on magazines. We're going to talk about magazines this week because we're getting ready for the actual media days, which will be next week. We're going to talk about Jackson Dart and Luke Altmaier tomorrow, and we're going to dig in and start with the quarterback competition that we're going to talk about for 2 months. It's going to be 2 months almost nonstop. So everybody get ready for that. So, before we get started, I do want to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your sporting betting needs and information. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcast, and news this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA and boxing and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. You've seen the thing pop up that Ole Miss is a 21.5-point favorite in Week 1 against Troy. Also, BetOnline says Ole Miss is predicted to win 7.5 games over/under this season in the regular season. If you think it's more, you can kind of put your money where your mouth is. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'd like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across Locked On Colleges network. LinkedIn helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Pick up your free profile at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. Also, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Very special guest, Bryson Sanders. I hope I got your pronunciation right.
Yes, sir.
Man, I'm glad you came on with us today, and we're just going to jump right into it. What made you pick Ole Miss?
Definitely the relationships I have with the coaching staff, especially Coach Thornton. Ever since he took over, I think it was spring of 2021, he's been hard at me ever since. And Ole Miss was my first offer in Ole Miss. And, I mean, even though Coach Thornton wasn't there when they offered me, they've been at me ever since. Even with the coaching change at the O-line position, they've always been at me. And I've always felt the love from them. And I just have the ability to come in early and help them in the interior on the offensive line because they're probably losing 3 guys this year to the NFL draft. And, I think Coach Kiffin's building something special there, and I want to be part of it.
Yeah, it's good to know, and everything. We're certainly glad to have you at Ole Miss and in Oxford. So, how many times have you been to Oxford? What have you noticed about that town, other than the coaches? What stood out about it?
I went. My first time in Oxford was to the LSU game last fall, and then in April when I went on my official visit there. And what I really liked about Oxford was it was a small town. It's not a big town. I liked the vibe there. It was close-knit kind of, just town, the great people there. And, they love Ole Miss athletics. And, I just want to be a part of that.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, to change gears a little bit, your recruitment is pre-NIL and post-NIL. You're going to be somebody that's kind of right in the middle. How has recruiting changed before to now? Is it a different way it interacts with you? How's it go?
Yeah. So the summer of my junior year, which was or the summer before my junior year, which is last year, when I really started going on unofficial visits, I don't remember them talking about NIL really at all last year, because last year was kind of the first year it started really happening, and then this year when I went on my official visits, they talked about it a lot. So it's definitely changed from talking about NIL from last year to this year. And it's, as you've seen a lot of really quarterbacks getting a lot of money, you can definitely see it changing a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And on the offensive line, like probably Jeremy James, Nick Broker, and those guys are going to move on to the next level. How do you see yourself fitting in the Ole Miss offensive line?
Yeah, I think I can play anywhere on the offensive line, but I think what I see myself and what the coaches really see me at is either center or guard. They like how versatile I am at either of those positions, and they like how smart I am if I played center just because I can read the defenses really well. And I have experience at both of those positions because I played guard last year and my sophomore year, and I'm playing center this year for my high school, so I can do both.
Okay. And we have a guy that's going to come on and break down Ole Miss players. If he breaks down your video, what will he say about Bryson Sanders?
He'll tell you that I'm aggressive. I'll keep blocking you until after the whistle sometimes, and that's just what I do. And I don't really care what people say. It's just who I am, and I'm strong. I'm not going to let you get past me. I'm a fire off the ball, and I'm quick and fast, and I'm going to try to put you into the ground.
Okay. And is your recruitment over? Is it still a little bit open? How does it look between now and it's done? Okay, perfect. All right, so we're going to change gears a little bit because you play in the private school division with Marcel Reed, who is also another Ole Miss commitment. You told me you knew Marcel. Tell me a little bit about Marcel that maybe Ole Miss fans don't know.
He's a hell of a competitor. He's knocked my team out of the playoffs the past 3 years, unfortunately. So, I kind of have some bad blood against him, but it's all fun and games. He's about to be my quarterback for the next couple of years. But he's a hell of a competitor. He's quick. He makes guys miss in open field, and he's a good guy off the field too.
As somebody that's played him 3 times, everybody on Ole Miss, obviously, they talk about Arch Manning. They missed out on it. They talk about Jaden Rashada. And tell us why Marcel Reed is a benefit and why Ole Miss fans shouldn't be concerned about these high-dollar quarterbacks.
Marcel's not going to let anyone outwork him. He's going to go to work every day, working his butt off. He's got that chip on his shoulder because people have talked about those other quarterbacks, and he knows that. But he's going to go to practice every day, working his butt off, and I think he'll be better than all the other quarterbacks.
And all you guys are working on players moving forward. Who are some of the guys that you're recruiting actively to try and get to Ole Miss before signing day?
Definitely Tyree Adams and DJ Chester, two offensive linemen, and then Neo Avery, who's a defensive end, who just dropped his top forward either yesterday or the day before, which Ole Miss was in. And then really some of those wide receivers that, especially the one in-state in Mississippi, who's I think one of the best wide receivers in the country. I definitely want to get him to Ole Miss.
Okay. Since you've shut down your recruiting and everything, has it gotten quieter, or is it just as hectic as it's always been?
Oh no, it got quieter, which is a good thing for me.
I can imagine. Was your phone blowing up? What does that look like whenever you're at the peak of your recruitment?
Oh yes, it's definitely crazy. It's overwhelming for sure.
Your audio went out just a little bit.
Oh, you can hear me now?
Yeah, now I can.
Every night I was on the phone with 2 or 3 coaches.
It's going out again. Yeah, so it's going out again. I can hear you when it. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. It's definitely hectic, but it's something I'm grateful for.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine that in this age, like recruiting, like I go back way back. I was the video coordinator at Ole Miss back ages ago. And I remember what recruiting was like and everything's going on. But with social media and everything happening, I mean, it has to be amped up to like 11 with you guys. And I just really don't envy you guys going through this because, like, we found Patrick Willis back in 2003. Got him. He picked Ole Miss over Tennessee as a kind of situation you could relate to. But nobody knew about Patrick Willis. He just completely fell through the cracks. And this was just a dominant linebacker, and he would be an all-pro player, and he's potentially going to go into the Hall of Fame. But I don't think that can happen these days. Can it?
No, not really, because, especially Twitter. Everyone's on Twitter, and you can see basically any player in the country is where they post their highlights and all that. So it's really hard to miss a good player or a great player like Patrick Willis.
Yeah. Is there any player that you're looking forward to playing with at Ole Miss?
Definitely Eli Acker. He'll still be there for a couple of years when I get there, and he's a hell of a lineman. And Patrick Cushman, another offensive lineman, I'm excited to play with.
Okay, should be really good. Anyway, thank you, Bryson, for coming on the show. Best of luck to you as you get ready to sign with Ole Miss in December. Hopefully, after or before you sign, we can have you back again to talk about what's going on.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Yes, sir,
appreciate it, bud. Have a good day.
Yes, sir.